Dear grade 5 students, today's lesson is about complex sentences. In this grammar lesson, we are going to learn about clauses and we are going to learn about complex sentences. A complex sentence is an independent clause joined with a subordinating conjunction to a dependent clause. So a complex sentence is made up of an independent clause and a dependent clause joined together by subordinating conjunction. What is a clause? A clause is a subject and verb. Let's talk first about an independent clause. An independent clause can express a complete thought by itself. For example, when invited Brady to his house. So this is a complete sentence with a subject and a verb, and it is considered as an independent clause, which means that it can express a complete thought by itself or it can stand alone by itself. Now, what is a dependent clause? A dependent clause does not express a complete thought by itself. It needs or it depends on an independent clause to make sense. So a dependent clause needs an independent clause. So it cannot stand alone by itself. For example, because Brady's parents had to work during the weekend. In this clause, we have a subject and we have a predicate, but it is not considered a complete sentence because it cannot stand alone by itself and it does not express a complete thought. So it depends or it needs an independent clause to make sense. Now, what is a subordinating conjunction? A subordinating conjunction is like since, although, if, until, unless, as, after, when, and before. Let's look at this sentence example. People visit Paris because it's so beautiful. In this sentence, we have a subordinating conjunction which is because, and this can be a clue or a hint that could help us recognize or identify the dependent clause. So we can say that a clause that starts with a subordinating conjunction is a dependent clause. Let's look at the beginning or the first part of the sentence. People visit Paris. People visit Paris is made up of a subject and a predicate. So we can say that this is an independent clause because it can stand alone or express a complete thought by itself or it makes sense. While here, because it's so beautiful, we can see that it has a subject and a predicate, but it starts with a subordinating conjunction, which is because. So we know that this is a dependent clause, and because it is so beautiful, cannot express a complete thought by itself, and it doesn't make sense. So it needs an independent clause in order to express a complete thought or in order to make sense. So we can say that people visit Paris because it's so beautiful is a complex sentence that's made up of a independent clause and a dependent clause. And remember that a dependent clause always starts with a subordinating conjunction. In this case here we have because. Let's take another example. My family visited Paris when I was 8. So this sentence is a complex sentence. It's made up of a dependent clause and an independent clause. And you have to remember that a dependent clause starts with a subordinating conjunction. So let's look at this sentence. My family visited Paris when I was 8. So first, in order to identify the independent clause and the dependent clause, you have to look for the hint or the clue or the signal word, which is the subordinating conjunction. In this case, we have here when in this sentence. So when here is the subordinating conjunction, so we know that what comes after it is the dependent clause. So here, when I was 8 is the dependent clause, and my family visited Paris is the independent clause. We can also start the sentence with the dependent clause. So we can say, when I was 8, my family visited Paris. But when the subordinated conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence, you have to separate the dependent clause and the independent clause with a comma. So here we have two clauses. I'll visit Paris. I'm grown up. We can say I'll visit Paris when I'm grown up. So here we added a suitable subordinating conjunction, which is when. And as I told you, we can put it at the middle of the sentence or at the beginning. And when you put the subordinating conjunction at the beginning of the sentence, you have to separate the two clauses by a comma. So we can say I'll visit Paris when I'm grown up, or when I'm grown up, I'll visit Paris. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.